r/AskReddit. What is the funniest lie you've heard a parent tell their children? My flatmate grew up on a farm and was told by her parents that their TV only worked when it rained. She believed this for far too long. That is devious. Wonder how the parents had the self-control to not use it and how the kids believed that. Don't touch that. It'll turn into spiders. My friend ripped open a hand warmer once, and when the powder got all over his hands, his parents told him his hands would disintegrate by age 30. We looked up what disintegrate meant later that night, and he bawled hysterically while staring at his hands. Good times. Living on the West Coast, my friend would show the East Coast feed of the night countdown to her kiddos. They were always in bed by 9. Brilliant. Yup, ditto. Worked wonders because I would let them stay up after their 8 PM bedtime, so they thought it was way later than it was. Then they got old enough to tell time. Darn it. The rumble strips on the highway are for the blind drivers. Took me 7 years to realize. Well played, Dad. Oh, the classic dad driving by braille joke. As a kid I lost a tooth, put it in a plastic bag, slid it under my pillow, then went to bed early so the tooth fairy could come. When my parents forgot to put money under my pillow, my dad said you shouldn't have put the tooth in a bag. The tooth fairy couldn't smell it. I told one to my nieces. I told them that they had to hold an adult's hand when they were crossing the road or else the police will come and arrest them and they'd be put in jail. The oldest one then tried to run across the road by herself, but just as they got to the edge of the road, a cop car came around the corner and she ran back to me crying and saying she'd never do it again and begged me not to let them take her to jail. Coconuts are bear eggs. When I was a kid, my grandparents had 2 decorative coconuts, sort of like these, but with big googly eyes. Grandpa told me that if I left them alone they would have babies. One day he glued googly eyes to a bunch of walnuts and left them in my room. I think I still have them. My mom told my sister that they only named hurricanes after girls, otherwise they would be hurricanes. My dad always told me that the men in charge of naming the hurricanes named them after their wives. I was at the mall the other day and this woman's little girl kept wandering away from her. Then some old lady went up to the little girl and told her that there were people that lived in secret rooms in the mall that would snatch little kids up and put needles in their heads. Little girl's mom was not amused. Sounds like the lady I encountered on the bus. Years back when my first was a toddler, we were riding the bus home one afternoon. There was an elderly lady sitting near us that kept trying to get my daughter's attention. Finally my daughter waved to her and said hello, and the old lady glared at me and told me as a mother I need to do a better job parenting. That I shouldn't encourage my kid to talk to strangers. That is how they get stolen, you know. I was both creeped out, is this lady threatening me, and pissed off. She was the one who was pestering my daughter. WTF. As a kid my dad convinced me there was a species of mountain goat that had evolved with longer legs on one side so it could balance on steep slopes. I was a dumbass as a kid. My mom told my brother and I that a penguin lived behind the fridge, and if we left the door open too long we'd steal his cold and he'd get mad and come out and bite us. It worked on my brother. I asked my mom to move the fridge so I could pet the penguin. More like silly story with a lie in it. My dad, sister, 3, and I, 6, were making Christmas cookies when I specifically remember my dad making an odd shaped one. When we asked what it was, he said it was a dragonfly without wings. Fast forward to about 2 years ago when I find an old VHS tape, pop it in the VCR and it's that very moment. My mom had recorded it, and it was then that I realized my dad had made a penis. That Santa uses Christmas trees as spy beacons to make sure children aren't being naughty. There was a tree in each of the kids' rooms until the youngest was 13 or 14. When my daughter was little, I found her fiddling with a child-proof latch on the cabinet under the kitchen sink. Hey, I told her, don't touch that, but I wanna see what's in there was her reply. Poisons, cleaning agents, and all the other assorted nasty stuff that makes it necessary to have it locked in the first place is the real reason, of course. But the actual answer I gave her was oh, no you don't. You don't want to open that door. You let the monster out. The monster, she said. with a skeptical look. Aha, we keep a monster in there to help clean the dishes. Watch, I took one of the dinner plates and washed the leftovers down the garbage disposal. Now I've sent the monster his food, and with a surreptitious flick of the switch on the disposal, the monster came to life. Came from under the sink. See, that's the monster eating the leftover food. Want me to open the cabinet so you can see? No, don't open the cabinet and let the monster out. Oh, so, are you going to try and open the cabinet again? No daddy, I don't wanna open that cabinet. My work there was done. If you wander off, the boogeyman will kill you and make sausage out of you. My grandmother, to me, couldn't eat sausage until I was 13 and realized that there was no way that was true. Oh no, this isn't cola, it's black water, you wouldn't like it. Grandpa told me that there's a tube connecting my belly button to my butt, and that if I unscrew my belly button my butt will fall off. At the store I work at, heard this from a parent to their child. Every time you touch something, a kitten dies. When my ex-girlfriend was a kid, she had misbehaved and her dad told her he was only going to buy her one boob when she grew up. I was told that if a centipede counted my teeth I would die. To this day, I close my mouth when I see a centipede. I'm over 40 years old. In front of the zoo enclosure full of ever-randy Galapagos tortoises, he's giving her a back rub. Oh, they're trying to play leapfrog. He wants a piggyback ride. The fish are more interesting. We should go look at the fish now. That's not juice. It's camel's blood. My sister's attempt at averting her kids' attention from the expensive pomegranate juice. I have 4. Number 1 comes from my sister. She has her kids convinced that when they lie their tongues turn purple. Knows they're lying when they try to hide their tongue while talking. Number 2, my aunt. If you eat the crusts of the bread it will make your hair curly. Number 3, my very car obsessed uncle. Don't touch anything because there is a secret panic button in here and if you touch it the roof will open up and it will throw you out the car. Number 4, the last and most epic one. Friend's aunt found out her kid was drinking when he was 12/13 because he got sick. Convinced him he was sick because he was allergic to alcohol and he was lucky he didn't die. Mom only revealed the truth when he was of age to drink. Dragonflies are called sewer bugs and they sew your mouth shut when you lie. I dated a girl who had a job at McDonald's a while back. One mother with 2 kids came in and ordered a regular set with 2 kids meals. I guess that at this McDonald's, there were frequently items that corporate was testing. So this woman ordered some sort of healthy kids meal that had apple slices instead of fries, and milk or chocolate milk instead of soda. So my girlfriend was about to ask her, do you want milk or chocolate milk with those kids meals, but the woman immediately shushed her, saying shhhhh, just regular milk. They don't know about chocolate milk. My father always said the animals on the side of the road were just taking a nap since the road was warm. My grandma told us that smelling each other's farts would make us stronger. Worst Christmas ever for us. Funniest Christmas for her. I work at a pet store. There's a lady who comes in every so often for a new better fish. Always a different color for her kids. Instead of trying to match the exact color and size of the fish so they don't know it died, she told them it's a rainbow fish. So not only are they not upset over a dead fish, they're excited every time the fish changes color. I told my kids if they didn't behave in the drive-thru they'd get a sad meal. That's a hamburger and a spanking. My parents got me to eat calamari by telling me they were Italian onion rings. To this day, not only do I love that shit, but I'll eat anything once because of it. No matter how fast you run, the automatic door will open before you get to it. I'm Chinese. My mom told me that for every grain of rice I waste would indicate the number of dents on my face when I grow up. From then on, even when I dropped a grain of rice on the floor, I would eat it. Never wasted a grain of rice ever again. My mom's name is Elaine. My grandmother, her mom, told her that she was named after the song Penny Lane. My mom went her whole life telling people this. It wasn't until last year that my dad looked it up and found out that the song came out 2 years after my mom was born. My grandma died about 10 years ago, so now my mom is trying to figure out what else she lied about. My mom's friend got tired of her kids eating her scallops when they went to restaurants, So she told them that scallops are dolphin balls. Finally an excuse to post this story. Okay, this one's about me. When I was really young, 5-6, I was extremely gullible. My father took full advantage of that for his own amusement. He had me convinced that my father was a secret agent, who also had a secret laboratories, think Dexter's lab. My father even went to the extremes of taking me on missions where we'd find bombs, circuit boards with some LEDs and wires, where we'd defuse them together. He once made me choose which wire to cut, telling me that one will detonate a nuclear explosion, the other will disarm it. I couldn't handle that much responsibility at 5, so I didn't cut either and let him do it. He told me his secret lair had a door inside the house. I spent many nights looking for it. I was convinced it was in his wardrobe, but I figured it needed a voice password. I begged and begged, but he'd never tell me the password. Didn't figure out I got conned till years later. My aunt told my little cousin that after Halloween he would have to leave his bag of candy on the porch for some Halloween spirit to take. She, or the spirit, would leave a gift in the morning. So my cousin basically collected the neighbor's candy to barter for some gift. People get 10,000 words per month. If you reach the limit, you can't physically speak until the new month begins. Anytime I was especially talkative, Dad would say, "Careful now, I have to think you are up over 9,000 by now." That would shut me right up. Bears eat poop and live in the toilet. Jeff Ramsey. My professor in college told his sons, 7 years old, that the escalators went up and that escalators went down. Since our college town was small and only had one escalator, they believed him. If the ice cream truck is playing music, it means they have run out of ice cream. This is my favorite one. My parents called it the music truck. They'd have me wave as it went by. Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin, where does the sun go when it sets? Dad, it lands in Arizona. It is actually only the size of a quarter, so it doesn't crush the state. See? Hold a quarter up. It's the same size. Calvin, why does it go from east to west? Dad, solar wind. My boyfriend's dad went to a NASA space camp and when he came back brought his sons pieces of concrete and told them it was moon rock. He believed his dad had actually gone to the moon for years. My mom used to tell me that 7-Eleven wasn't open until 11 AM. Missed out on many a Slurpee. My dad said I couldn't have a tree house because it would raise his property taxes. Never got a tree house. Never asked for it again because I didn't want to increase my parents' financial burden. Not sure when I realized it wasn't true, but it was way too long. Told my kids that ninjas open automatic doors, and that when they would trip that sidewalk monsters were getting them and they, place of business or city, need to spray a game to keep them from attacking. My mom told my younger siblings that when they tell a lie, they would grow lie bumps on their tongue. For years, anytime she suspected they were lying, she just had to say, "Let me see your tongue." Made it much easier to solve arguments where they both blamed each other. My father told me that when you killed your first deer you had to take a bite of its heart. We were watching Dances with Wolves and I asked why they did that. Yeah, I believed that and refused to hunt with him for a year or two afterwards. When he finally asked why, I repeated what he told me and he ended up crying with laughter. I on the other hand cried from embarrassment. Not my parents, but my sister once told me that drag races were two men running down the street in women's clothing. Didn't find out the truth until I was about 9 years old and was told by a friend's mum to stay away from the road in the evening as that's when the drag races come out. Apparently the look on her face when I said I wanted to see how men run in high heels was priceless. Bananas are really just spider cocoons, or to my 4 and 5-year-olds. If you eat after 8 PM you turn into a gremlin and the only way to stop the process of changing into one is to eat a vegetable. I got my 4-year-old to eat a piece of raw broccoli after I convinced him his ears and eyes started to look kinda pointy and green. My aunt told my cousin that his boner just meant he had to pee. If only I could remember all the things the dad from Calvin and Hobbes said. I was 5 years old when my pet guinea pig died. My mom left the cage open on the porch, staging an escape. She told me that my pet had met a boy guinea pig, that they had fallen in love, and they had run off into the woods to be married and have babies. I was well into my 20s before I realized the sad truth. Telling little twin girls, Boys are gross. They have cooties until they are surgically removed by a doctor when they are 28 years old. When my daughters were little, I told them if you burped, farted, and sneezed at the same time, you would turn them inside out. I kept that up until my oldest was 10 and youngest was 7. That is when my youngest sneezed and squeaked out a fart. Then she turned to her grandmother, my mother, and said it's a good thing I didn't burp or I would have turned inside out. My mom asked her who told her that, to which my wide-eyed 7-year-old daughter told her grandmother daddy told us that. He said had a friend that did it and turned inside out and came to school all squishy and gross. My mom ratted me out and told my daughters their daddy was not telling them the truth. My daughters are 19 and 15 now and they still don't trust anything I say. My mom tried to convince me that McDonald's stopped serving pizza because the cook at our local McDonald's was allergic to them. I was young so I fell for it. McDonald's had pizza? The 80s were a magical time. Stuffing is rabbit meat. I didn't like eating rabbit and my mother decided that I was being difficult and was having none of that. So she told me that what I had on my plate was a chicken leg. I told her it tasted really funny and she replied that's because I cooked it without the skin. I bought it and finished it all. It's a running joke in the family to this day. It's surprising how often parents that come into my work call on me to help them convince their kids that the donuts aren't real and are just plastic display donuts. Had a friend tell me her dad told her your calf jiggles because that's where your body stores your cereal. Of course we love each other. Nothing like a little dark humor. How about, we love you all equally. Bro, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.